आज तारीख मुगदा कथुम मेघजांगवी 2021 Sunday in Thor Atamitranli itum kok yang kasada cheersli ibam rasaidla itum ida the video ina joda siasang rung phai da luida itum nangrana re walu commission mangaina church members I totally arim Thor salam salishidli lockdown Atamitranila itum kok yang kasada rally forum se siasa se Look at Mashan, Lake Napempting Kaya itum Saiko, Kasa, Akava, Vibra. No, we meanly Remirano, no Katara Vibranake, no Legacy of Vibrane, no Pio Kamivrane, Natum Mikachi, Shimray by Shina, the party the clay of Vibrach in the Mangane, Arimutorata Mitrane, Prohonali Korungida, Kalalim Sot Migida, Kalabrohanaling Shigida, itum Mikachi, Lumena. Nele pungsok te leko vibra. O ting e ching chamla kaya mi mau kaza thang we newsly WhatsApp li itum no pal ka theva pro itum ukhnang haire asa ka themi jelang de mi o tili thi de khle lang le itum khong nai reside li thi de khle ka tong he pro ngaching chamla kaya tamla ke ka tha sai chilla pro ne policy li nan o ti ke shemane Nana mi kumo kashemane. Jivangana pro kazan ila nana raimi shapre. Nana kham shapre ki jivangana. Members I go to mutunena. We run around in a workshop tak lahi. Loma shen mi da kakumilaklo the selsane. Kazada kaleya. Basali. Ra. Raida kazakaya. Is a church member pinela loma shen mi da. Raisa mangsang milo. Jelang da pro ho. Coffee going to positive sa khai le jangdale rai khai le jangdale sai kore prolening shishi hai are mu thora tami tranli idu na prolening son milishitli church manga shong le dikle program mu chung khale dalagena issue golden jubilee memorial building ramang samlakla shuk sadale sai kore na ko tom khami lane ne chikat mi ke midakle sai kore bhan ma khale ni Raj Thakpai na kupsang wai John Milo Jililang with the Proho Katam Kashi National Bing Online Tamdakle Ra Tunila Kitachawi Tamdaklish the Training Sang Plak and the Tambush Wai and a Kang John Milo the Chivang Siagasani Atamitrani Privra Nelly Sias Hapumre Privra Chivang Chaka Itum lockdown side Kayang Namushokwela Kajashim Nipam the Shimkur Mazip Maida Ra nali khokruma tam sang sagmilo nali phaning khunga tam sang sagmilo nawi tui kapa tam sang sagmilo nali masot kamya tam sang sagmilo da prohola luida chiwang lai tum siasa da nali po da pleni church member ping pro shayali jatakle kala shimsong li unghaya atum ping ki pani kala kala shim no masamang khwai da luida tamang na siaga sane ari mu thwadam thanli guys kita offering jelang the kurada play church the Christo in the chikata play sai koro tunila gana na sok mita shumya klota siag sane arin thor itum sai kon no pro nali khorum gai ikati cha uyuk lungli khaning da klay mang shok la le klay sai kor na nang tene jivang na pro na lum shan mida mi ka chiwo wi simple ka chiwo wi church wi ning ka changji gana na mahan ka mida nali masot mida atam gujda itum thilala ringlala no wimang sarko da mishirkai nani shitsangda kala no wi kami lungli itum okthi da lei giwi shitkastam ka jahanji lemi jinglo da sai kor hi itum le sakwa jisu Christo mili siag sane amen.
A very good morning to each and every one of you, and I'm indeed very grateful to the Lord, and I always will be. You see, we are living in a very tragic time, a very sad moment. That as I'm speaking to you right now, there are millions of people who are dying around the world. And you see, somewhere along the line, all these things makes me so angry as an individual, as I think, not the fact that I'm staying at my home and I can't get out. No, it's much more than that. See, we humans, it's all our making. It's all our stupidity and it's all our negligence. That's why we're suffering this right now. What do I mean by that? You see the world, you see the top leaders, the government, all around the world. We have focused so much on collecting all this billion of dollars, investing so much in military defense, which is good, not bad. But when we focus so much on buying nuclear weapons, on buying all those things, on buying all those guns, on buying all those items, all those bombs and all those things where we have invested so much of billion of dollars, but yet, in the other hand, neglecting medical care, neglecting medicines, neglecting hospitals, neglecting all the things that has to do with our health sector, and that's where the problem lies. The world was so ready for an attack, whatever attack may be, whether it may country-wise, that everyone is so ready, be it Israel, India, US, and South Korea, that we are all so ready for an attack. Therefore, we will buy so much of these military weapons, so much of these so-called nuclear bombs, because we are ready for an attack, that anytime an attack comes, that we can counter an attack. That is the ideal and the goal of every nation. But little did we know that the attack that has hit us, that no weapon can even destroy. No nuclear weapon can even destroy this. No guns, no missile. That something beyond our eyes has hit us, not as a nation, but even as a world. And there is no solution to this. One of the negligence in history is this, that when the first time cancer came out, there was no cure for cancer. The world was in a panic. Then later on, SARS came out. They did not learn from the cancer. Still, when SARS came out, there was no treatment for SARS. Then later on, we thought that somewhere along the line, people will give more importance, that leaders will give more importance to health sectors. But later on, when Ebola came, boom, Ebola. How many lives has Ebola taken? And somewhere along the line, we were like, now is the high time where leaders and top people will take more importance to medical care than military defense. Then suddenly outbreak of coronavirus come. And we are in this situation that if we have taken care more of our health sectors, we will not be suffering as much death as we are right now. And with all these things that boils along the thin line, it angers me so much. That's why we are suffering, because of the stupidity of our own. But you know, somewhere along the line, this pandemic can be a blessing in disguise. But so many lives has been taken. What do I mean by that? You know, before this pandemic ever hit us, we do not know our needs and our wants anymore. Our needs become our wants become our needs, and therefore at home, we keep on becoming so materialistic, and our needs has been neglected, and our wants become our needs. Now this pandemic hit us and reminded us, hey, the basic thing in life is your needs, and wants are not so much important in order for you to survive. You need your food, your shelter, your loved ones at home, and everybody, those who are your water, whatever it might be, those shelter, those basic needs will keep you alive. It's not so much of the wants that's really needed in life. This pandemic, this outbreak has hit us and make us remind of this. And not only of that, but even how important our health is. Like I will always say, health is indeed wealth, but many of us, we use so much of our health just to chase after wealth, when in the end, now we're using all our wealth just to get back to our health. That this pandemic has taught us how to be hygienic, how health is very important, and how each countries are correlated, that community is very important, that we ought to pray for one another. Sometimes when we hear news that happens in China or maybe somewhere in America, we don't really care so much, because we think that's that side of the world, we're living this side. But now this pandemic has taught us that everything that is happening around the world are all correlated, and it is a ripple effect, and it is hitting one after the other. And these things are all a reminder to us to focus on the important things. But with all that's being said, how this pandemic has taught us that everything is temporary in life. Everything, and everything just fades away. And it even reminds you that age is just a number. There's no such things that old people die faster. That the lives is just being taken out young or old. It just reminds you that age is just a number. How many of things this pandemic has reminded us these things? But you know, one of the most things that this pandemic has really taught me is this. That whatever problem do we have in life, whether it be a corona outbreak, whether it be a health issue, Whether it be a financial problem, whether it be an emotional problem, physical problem, family problem. Imagine a time when you were heartbroken by someone else. Imagine a time when you heard the bad news about your family. Imagine a time when you were sick. Where do you go? You always go back to your private life. You don't go with friends. Maybe friends come later and you share those problems. But each time you receive a bad news, each time something bad happens to you, you always go back first to your room. Maybe you weep, but you spend time alone. Why? Because the world teaches you this, that any problem that comes in your public life, it will always send you back to your private life, and therefore we suffer in our private life. Now this outbreak has taught us to go back to our private life. This outbreak has taught us, this pandemic has taught us that how we should really spend time in our private life. You see, our private life is the foundation of our public life. How great you are, you may be in your public life. If your private life is not strong, one day your private life will shatter all those public life. I always say this, Alexander the Great, whom I looked up so much, almost conquered the world. His public life was so strong, he almost conquered the world. But he failed because he failed to keep his private life intact. So his private life is the reason why he shattered his public life. Alexander the Great almost conquered the world, but he failed to conquer himself. That's why in the end, his public life was in jeopardy. There are many artists, many singers, many actors who will enjoy their public life, but they can't take over their private life. That's why in the end, with all the fame and fortune that they have, they will be in depression, suicide, all those things that happen. Why? Take hold of your private life. You see, one of the greatest men that I really admire in this theological world will be a late Rabbi Zacharias. He's one of the reasons why I fell in love with philosophy and apologetics. A man whom I looked up so much in his public life was one of the best public life, impacting so much. Even it inspires me to go on for theology, to go on for apologetics. But we heard the news what happened to him in his private life. Because the universe, the world is telling you this, unless you fix your private life, how good your public life may be, people may look up to you, but unless you fix your private life, your public life and your whole life will shatter because of your private life. Your private life, my private life, our private life is the foundation of what we do. And there is no better time than this pandemic. The world is saying, go and fix your private life first. Maybe in the past we would say, I don't have time for my private life. I'm doing so much work, I don't have time. Now is the best time. Everybody have equal time. Fix our private life. Because unless we fix our private life, oh, I tell you, one day our private life will shatter our public life. You see, with all these things that is happening right now, somewhere I think along the line, people are dying. This fear all around us. Some people are feeling down, the feelings taking over them. What I want to say is this, we're living right now, whenever you look, deaths. And there is fear that comes. There's this good fear and there's this bad fear. But there's this bad fear that helps. And you see, when we take a look around the world, full of fear right now, what's happening. But I want to encourage each and every one of us that faith over fear, faith over failure, faith over your feelings of what you are feeling right now. I know it's a sad time, we fear, but have faith over this feeling right now. You see, when we look at fear, fear is something of an excess of our imagination where we think so much, and yet I'm saying the reality, people are dying. I'm not saying reject the reality. Yes, the reality is that people are dying. The reality is this COVID is too much, it's spreading all around, but have this faith in you. I'm not saying neglect it. I'm not saying reject the fear. Yes, fear is good. Fear motivates you to do things. Fear motivates you to come closer to God. Fear motivates you to keep safe. This is good fear, but do not let this bad fear destroy you. You see, I always say about this peace. Peace is not the absence of trouble. Peace is not the absence of problem. Peace is not the absence of tragedy. People think that peace is the absence of war, peace is the absence of problem, but peace, the real peace, is in the midst of problem, in the midst of tragedy, that you learn to find your rest in God alone. And I'm encouraging each and every one of us to have this peace, to have this faith in Him. Fear can be so deceptive, but have this faith and say that yes, things are going very bad, but I'm going to have my rest in Him. Because if you have fear, you're taking out God's best. If you have faith, you're living to Him and living up to God's rest, and you rest in Him. You see, I'm not telling you to neglect fear, that fear is nothing. Yes, there's going to be fear in your life. And this is fear, all this corona thing. Yes, I'm not neglecting that there's a giant in front of you named Goliath. No, acknowledge that Goliath is there. But do not fear. When David faced Goliath, he acknowledged that Goliath is there. He didn't say, who is this Goliath? This giant is nothing. Maybe he acknowledged that this guy is big, he is strong. But compared to my God, he has this faith, it is nothing. Maybe there's a giant that is facing us right now. Maybe in this situation. But don't let this fear overcome your faith. It's always faith over fear. When fear comes knocking at your door, send faith to answer it. And you know, during these private moments in our life, I want us to develop. It's not just about spiritual development, mental development, intellectual, emotional. It's a holistic development. Work yourself in your private life. Know yourself, know your strengths, know your weaknesses, and work on your weaknesses. Sharpen your strengths, know yourself, so that one day when you get out to the world, when all this pandemic is over, and when you face pain again, when you face tragedy, when you face heartbroken moments, when you face failure, you are ready. I'm not saying that when you work so much in your private life and you build yourself that you're not going to face pain in life. You are going to face. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. But when you face tragedy and problem, and this public life failure will send you back to your private life, you're not going to go back crying anymore, because you are going to go back to the Lord and talk, God, I have been here before. I work on my private life. I know that whatever comes before me, they shall not overcome me. You are strong. You are stronger than before, because in your private life, you have worked yourself. And as we work on our private life, it is very crucial. You see, what I want to say is that during this pandemic, or maybe during this quarantine or lockdown time, be careful what you do each day, because the habit that we create during this pandemic time as we're at our home, the habit that we create is very crucial, because when we create our habit, one day our habit will create us. We make our habit, and one day our habit will make us, and our habit will lead us to our destiny. So it's very important, very crucial what you do each day, because by the end of this pandemic, what you are doing right now, you are creating something that's very new within yourself, and it's going to become a habit that will lead you to your future. So be very careful how you spend your time wisely. You see, invest in yourself right now. I just want to say, sharpen yourself. The weaknesses that you have right now, work on it. See, there's a quotation that goes like this, and it's very beautiful. That if you fail to prepare, you are preparing to fail. Who on earth will prepare to fail? But the fact that says that if you fail to prepare, eventually you are preparing to fail. So during this time, prepare yourself mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically as it may be, whatever aspect it might be. Take this time. There's not going to be a better time right now than to prepare yourself what you can be. Grow in faith. Grow with the Lord. Now is the best time where you spend quality time with the Lord, quality time with your family, and I encourage each and every one of us to take this time. Because I don't think that the world will come to another time where we are just going to be confined in this place. A time will come again where we will be so busy right now, and we will be too busy that we will not even have time for ourselves anymore. While we have time for ourselves, while we have time for our loved ones, while we have time to establish ourselves, grab this opportunity, because it ain't going to come again. So what I want to say is, whatever that's happening right now, trust in God, find rest in Him. Always faith over fear, faith over your feelings, or faith over the failure that is happening right now.